Blog Talk Radio.
Now tuned in to the mother greatest.
All right. Yeah.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. What's going on? Welcome to Let's Chat with the fabulous Miss Toni. I'm Miss Lissha, and we're talking that talk today about dream catchers. Hey, see what's going on.
Hey, Lissha, girl, I can't believe another Friday has come along. It seems like we were just in the chat room, girl.
I know. Well, I'm so excited because, next year we're going to have the chat room 2 days a week. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah,
it was getting too heavy. Like, it would have been too much just for everybody on a Friday. So now we got 2 days, and then we don't have to turn people away because they have 2 days to come on the show.
I know they're going to be like, what do you mean I can't get on? Please, open up that chat room, girl.
I know. That's like, I'm trying to get on your show. I'm like, wait for us until February.
Oh, my God. I can't believe the time has been flying so fastly. Not only we're busy with Let's Chat, but we have so many other side things going on that just take up a lot of time, and it's a good thing, It keeps you sharp, it keeps you busy, and it keeps you out of trouble.
Absolutely. And, I'm trying to go back to school to do my master's. At first, I was kind of straddling the fence about it because I didn't know if it would kind of serve a purpose. I really just want to do it as a safety net. In the event I have to go back to work, I'm always marketable if I have a master's degree in business. So I think, I'm going to go. And so they had an open house and everything, and I go to the open house. And so the lady is like, when you think of a job, who do you think of working for? What type of company do you feel like you want to work for? And I just thought, I don't feel like I'm be working for anybody. She looked at me. I said, I don't see myself working for anybody but myself. My thing is, I worked a lot of years. I've only not been working maybe 2 years. But I make other people money. I want to make my own money. I literally want 7 streams of income, literally.
Right.
And that's just what I want to do.
Well, she asked you.
Right, she asked me. She was just looking at me. I said, I kind of don't see myself working for nobody. Just myself. It was like, okay.
But that just shows that, you have dreams and ambitions, you have goals, you're focused on what you want to do, where you want to be in life, and a lot of people are not at that stage, so she was probably really taken aback by it.
Right, and it's like you work so hard to make money. When you work for somebody else, you're making them money. They may be paying you, but Uncle Sam's taking half. I'm trying to give Uncle Sam money because we end up paying him every year. We end up owing. I'm trying to owe him money. Let's make me some money for a change. I know. For that.
That is so true. He never has to wait for his. He gets his up first, regardless of what's going on.
Yes, Uncle Sam don't play. If you don't give him his money, he come to get, he works in the bookie. He come to get everything you got. He ain't holding nothing back.
Everything.
After he comes to take everything from you. So I don't see myself working for nobody, but I do want to get my master's as just a safety net in the event like something happens and I gotta go back to work. I gotta have something I can fall back on. But I digress. We're gonna have a hot show. We got 3 fabulous authors today. We got author S.Chameleon, Boss Lady Publishing, woo-woo. And we got author Peter Mack, aka Ezekiel Cook, and then we got the fabulous Felisha Bradshaw. So we're gonna have a hot show. We're talking about dream catchers. And you know, I kind of got the idea, something we were talking about the other day. And, you know, the dream catcher, that's that story where I guess they were having nightmares or something. And so, like, the chief or the medicine man or whomever it was thought about making a net with a hole in the middle so the net would catch the good dreams and let the bad ones fall through. And I was like, you could kind of think of that when you're going into your journey, especially in books. Because you want to catch the good things, and you want to know when to release those bad things. Everything that, you know, flocks to you or comes to you is not meant for you to keep, and you want to know when to release that, but still hold on to the good things that you have. You know what I'm saying? See?
That's true. And you know what? The first thing that came to my mind as you were speaking, you know how in the Bible when they're planting the seeds, you know the seeds that the grass grows and the weeds grows, and they said, should we pull the weeds? And God said, no, let them grow side by side because the good will eventually outweigh the bad. That's the first thing that just came to my mind when you were just explaining that, and it's so true. You know, because sometimes you need that bad just so you can see it and avoid it the next time, and it'll just make you that much stronger.
So, yeah, it was fun. Was talking to author Alexis Nicole, the new author at Boss Lady, and we were really talking about that yesterday. We had a wonderful chat. So we talked about that as well, because sometimes you don't know what it is. If nobody tells you or points you into the direction of the enemy, you don't know what the enemy looks like. You don't know. So somebody has to show you and tell you what it is for you to be able to recognize it if you can't see it for yourself. And in books, that could be your editor. That could be your publisher. It could be your promoter, your beta reader, your proofreader. They're all looking at something that maybe not necessarily the author can see until it's pointed out and explained to them. So then that way they see it next time. Or they see a direction that they may not necessarily want to go into next time, or why they shouldn't have made this decision that they made. Because, you know, being an author, that's a business. You're a business in itself. So a lot of times, you know, you make mistakes and you make decisions, whether you're self-publishing or you're with a publisher, and you never know that those mistakes that you are making at the time are not good mistakes that are for you.
And, you know, the flip side to that, Lissha, is like you said, you don't know who the enemy may be. It could be sitting or standing right next to you. But also, when you have gone through those trenches and you've found and seen the things that have gone wrong, if you could just reach back and just help one other author and just guide them around, you know, onto the right lane and say, you know, this didn't work for me. Maybe you may want to avoid it. Just reach back. You know, and that just makes your forward stance that much stronger, because you know you've helped somebody that may have just made the same mistake that you did.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Nobody got to the corner on their own. Somebody had to get in the car and put that car together for you to be able to get there. So it was authors that came before you that you don't even know. But they put it together so that you can move forward. And then you have to give back because they gave back. And you want to get from 1 block to 2 blocks, from 2 blocks to 3 blocks. Eventually, we want to have our own little city. But you have to work together for that to happen.
That's true. And that just makes the industry that much stronger, because it's not good when you see, and I love this industry, the urban lit industry. I love that industry, but I don't like the cutthroatness of it. You know, I I don't like seeing that. I'd rather see all the authors getting along, even if they don't like. They don't, and if they're not getting along, don't let the reader see it. That's not what I want to see my author doing.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to see.
And that's not like everybody has to get along. But it's just the way in which that you handle it.
True.
So we don't get our farts out box because, we could be here talking that talk all day, too.
That's so
We got a fabulous show. Yes. We're going to take a brief break, and we're going to bring in S.Chameleon. She's going to be talk about devious perception 1 and 2. Ooh, it's going down.
Yes, it is.
You are now tuned in to the mother greatest.
All right. Yeah!
We are back. We love that Dennis Farrer. Just make sure y'all head over to iTunes and check him out. We have a fabulous guest in the house. Whoop, whoop, boss lady. Publishing.
Yeah.
Live and in effect. What's going on, S.Chameleon?
What's going on? What's up, y'all? Glad to be on here with y'all tonight. I hear y'all done got started on the show with me without me already.
You know me and Lissha can get going easily.
I know. Y'all was about to go in. I'm like, wait a minute. Did they forget that I pressed 1?
You said, hold on, I got some stuff I want to say, too.
Wait a minute, they forgot I pressed 1. I got my power words ready and everything. They just forgot about me on hold.
Lissha, how are you? We are so happy you're joining Lissha and I on Let's Chat.
I'm good. I'm blessed. I'm glad to be on here with y'all. I'm glad y'all had me on.
Absolutely. So, so catch us up. Since the last time you've been on, because when you came on before, you had Devious Deception Part 1 was coming out. Now that that book is out, you got a sophomore book that's out. Now tell us what's going on with the Part 2 of Devious Deception. What can we expect from that?
I'm telling you, with Devious Deception 2, it's going to take you on a wild ride. It's going to be way more edgier than Devious Deception 1. I mean, it's just a lot of treachery and a lot of lying in Devious Deception 2, but it's definitely worth it.
Now, see, Sam, this is Toni. I'm going to have to act like I didn't edit it, so I'm going to have to act like a reader and kind of like ask some questions because, like you said, guys, just paired. It is not what you expect it to be.
Yes. And I think I did very good on that because I heard a little bit from you. You was like, whoa.
I know I had to put a side note in there so you could see my. I'm like, what the? What?
That's what's up. But you know what? That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to have it predictable. Because I know that my readers, really like Devious Deception 1, and I didn't want to make Devious Deception 2 to the point where you could figure out what was going to happen next. You know what I'm saying? So I had to just sit for a minute and think of that perfect twist that nobody was going to be able to come up with until you read those words, and I think I conquered that.
Girl, you had me stretched out on the floor. Lissha, when I got to that part, I was like, I had to go back and make sure I was on. Did I miss something? Did I miss a word? Miss a something?
I'm telling you. But I wanted it to be like that. You know what I'm saying? I really liked reading Eva Harris books. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to put a lot of diversity in my own work. And I started reading a lot of his series. And I kind of felt like, when you have relationships like that Eva Harris wrote about, it's a lot of authors that won't step into that territory because they feel like, oh, I don't want people to look at me like this because I'm writing like that, or I don't want people to look at me this way because of what I'm writing in my book. But what people got to understand is, first of all, the books are fictional. Second of all, we're coming up with these stories that people love to read. If you don't test the water, then how are you going to be different? How you want to be ordinary? I'm not ordinary, so I know I ain't going to be in that category. But that's what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to test my pen. I wanted to test the waters and try to stretch it as far as I could. And I feel like I conquered that with Devious Deception, too.
Absolutely. Now, you talk about testing the waters. Now, with your sophomore book, you did that solo. You self-published that. How was that experience for you?
It was a good experience. I think going through it the way that I did with having Devious Deception 1 out first, I think that helped me a lot as far as my writing went with Real Soldiers Don't Die. Real Soldiers Don't Die actually was a short story that I had put up on my blog when I used to write short stories and post them. And I ended up turning it into a short novel, but that process was a little easier once I got done with Devious Deception 1 because I knew a lot more. I had learned so much from Nene, and I'm still learning a lot from her. So, by the time I turned Real Soldiers into a full novel, I had a lot more knowledge than I had before. So, it was pretty smooth.
Tell our listener audience a little bit about what that book is about, because that's an interesting title.
Real Soldiers Don't Die. Real Soldiers Don't Die is just basically about a clique, you know what I'm saying, that grew up, really not even about a clique. It's about a chick and a dude that, you know what I'm saying, grew up together. Best friends, have been best friends since they was little, went into business together in the street. They was running the streets, selling drugs, doing whatever. Well, one of them ended up getting locked up. And so, the other one kind of was taking care of everything and, taking care of the money, handling the keeping everybody, together on what it was they needed to be doing. But, they had another soldier on their team that kind of wanted to take the head role, wanted to kind of knock one of the big bosses off so that, she could take over with a boyfriend that was locked up, and it just didn't work that way. The moral of the story of Real Soldiers is basically, you can break bread with your soldiers all day long, but everybody is never going to be truthful. You know what I'm saying? And it's sad to say that, but that's how it is in the street. You know what I'm saying? You can eat with somebody all day long, but if they greedy and they ain't got a good heart, they gonna backstab you regardless of whether you want to or not, whether you want to realize it. It's gonna happen. And so that's basically what Real Soldiers is about. She just, Nay was just a soldier for her team. She always did them right. She always took care of them. But, they kind of backstabbed her. Everybody thought, she was doing this and she was doing that, and she wasn't. And she just ended up with the upper hand at the end.
Now, does any of your characters in any of your books kind of emulate you or anyone in your circle?
I want to say no, but I'd be lying if I say that. I work with so many. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Snake. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I work with so many different characters in my novels. It's funny because some of the stuff that I tell, everything, we say it's fictional, but you really try to write and emulate some of the things that you know or how you lived your life. You know what I'm saying? Even if I'm not talking about me per se, I had to be in some of these situations in order to write about it, in order to make that feeling really come out. So, I mean, of course it does, but as far as my characters go, it's a piece of me and all my characters, of course, because I write them. So as I'm writing my characters, I've got to be that character.
Absolutely. Now, I just have a question because you put a little twist in Real Soldiers Don't Die because the main character, she wasn't heterosexual, she was lesbian. How was it the experience taking on a character that was attracted to the same sex opposed to the opposite sex and not making her a man?
It was hard, but I felt like because she had that type of mentality, I had to tap into it some kind of way. You know what I'm saying? So, I had sources that I could go and speak with that, I could kind of get information from, well, how does this happen or how does that happen or how am I supposed to say this, because I don't know. But, I definitely had to do my research. It was hard. It took me a while to write a lot of that I did write, but I eventually got through it.
Now, Chameleon, you've written your first book. It was under Boss Lady Publishing. You self-published your second one, and now you're on your third. Now, has your inspiration to be an author changed in any way? Do you still see yourself as an author in, like, say, 5 years?
Oh, yes, definitely. My inspiration hasn't changed at all. In 5 years, I just hope that I'm at a higher plateau than I am now. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to reach to the top, and I'll never stop. You know what I'm saying? It's what I love to do. I like to write. I like creating characters, and I like, creating my novels and coming up with the plots and making it thick and things like that. So, no, I'm going to stick with it. I love it.
Now, I got a question for you. What was one of the most surprising things that you learned in creating all three of your books, something that you learned about you and your pen?
That I can lie at the drop of a dime. That's funny. You asked something like that. I'm serious. For real, though. And people be laughing about that, but it's serious because you think about it like, dude, really, it's a fictional book. Dude, we lie all day long. You know what I'm saying? Why you hate to think about it like that, but dude, yeah, that's funny. But yeah,
I know your husband give you the side eye like.
Wait a minute,
really?
he's serious. He's sitting here talking about. Next time he asks me something, he's gonna be. Next time he asks me something, he's gonna be looking at me buck out like, nigga, you telling the truth or you lie? Oh my God.
Oh my goodness, that is hilarious. So it's safe to say that, you know, your family is really supportive
yes.
of you in just your writing endeavors. And I know that you relocated from Michigan to the South. How is that relocation going, and is it still allowing your literary ideas to flow?
It is. The only thing that I can say that has changed since we made our move to the South is
I think we lost. Did we lose her?
Uh-oh.
I think her call dropped just when she was getting to the good stuff.
Hey, guess what she was getting? The Bradshaw always doing that.
I know. It looked like we lost her.
Well, we're going to keep it moving, and here she go right back.
Okay.
Sorry about that, y'all.
Oh, there she is.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that, y'all. My phone hung up. But the only thing that I can see that's changed is I don't really know a lot of people down here. So as far as getting out and getting, selling my paperbacks and getting my paperbacks up, I don't really know a lot of the areas down here. It's really new to me. So I just got to get used to that, get used to the scenery, get used to the different places where I want to go shop my book and sell my my paperbacks for me to be able to get out and do that. It was easy for me to do that in Grand Rapids, Michigan, because that's where I was from. That's where I lived. So I knew all the areas. I knew all the barbershops, all the beauty shops and stuff like that. So I just got to get used to the areas.
So now your books kind of had a flavor of that Detroit flavor, if I'm not mistaken. Now, do you think that you'll be writing with that Southern flavor? Is where you live gonna truly affect your pen?
I don't think it's gonna affect my pen, but what I can say is Devious Deception 2 does pick up here where I moved to. So
okay.
Oh, all right. All
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So I knew I was moving. I knew I was moving here before I even came. We knew for a while that we were coming this way. So even before I finished Devious Deception 2, I had already incorporated Summer Greenville into the book. So you'll see a little bit about Greenville in there as well. And also in part 3. Yeah.
I was just about to say, do we have a part 3 on the horizon? Because I know that you were indecisive on whether you were going to end it in 2 or keep going with 3.
Nope, it'll definitely be a part 3. Actually, I've got the biggest part of part 3 done already. So
wow.
Oh,
yeah, it is. It's definitely going to be a part 3.
All right now. Look out, guys.
Gotta keep it going. Gotta keep it going.
Absolutely. Now, do you plan on jumping in any different genres outside of the urban-based genre?
I do want to write an erotica. I kind of started on one, but I haven't really went into depth on it yet. But I do want to dabble into some other genres as well. I do want to dabble in some other genres as well, but I just haven't really gotten into it. I have another project that I'm working on. Sorry, y'all. I have another project that I'm working on that I'll be putting out independently that I'm working on right now. So that's kind of got me on hold on writing the erotica.
Speaking of genres, Chameleon, what do you think qualifies an author as being the best in their genre?
mean, I don't know. I guess you know your own pen. You know how you write, and of course, authors always want to say, "Okay, I want to try this genre, or I want to try that one." But you know when your writing is good, and you know when it's not. So if you feel like you pushing the envelope, I say leave it alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what I can write, and if I feel like I done wrote them Bluetooth 5 chapters and it don't sound right, and I gotta read it more than twice, that ain't for you. It ain't for me. I'll leave it alone and go back to what I know, because it doesn't make any sense for me to push the envelope and try to write in a genre that I'm not comfortable with and then try to do it anyway, because I don't want that to hurt my pen and I don't want to disappoint my readers.
Absolutely. Now, do you have any suggestions that would help up-and-coming authors who are just aspiring to step into the literary world?
The only thing that I would say, if it's something that you want to do, just make sure you stay focused and make sure you do it. I didn't have a whole lot of help or support from my the other part of my family. I got a lot of support from like my husband and my dad, and my kids, things of that nature. But other parts of your family, you don't really have a lot of support. If people try to knock you down and say you can't do it, if it's what you want to do, I just say do it.
You got to go with your heart.
Definitely. Because I'm goofy. You know what I'm saying? I'm goofy. I'm always cracking jokes and all kind of stuff. So I started talking about right. Everybody looking at me like, fool, you ain't finna. Yeah, right. Fool, you ain't finna write nothing.
Wait a minute. Devious Deception Part 1 with the fight scene. So now, one thing about S.Chameleon's pen is that she's very vivid. Her sex scenes are vivid, and her fight scenes are vivid. So she got this fight scene right. So the chicks come up to the house. So it's the side chick. She's feeling bold. She coming up to the main chick house. Now he out of town. I don't know, but she wasn't ready when the door opened.
Nah. But that's how it happened, though.
She was not ready. Because when that door opened up, I think she got her girls with her. She thought something else was going to pop off. But they got wore out. That was the funniest part. I know it was supposed to be, like, serious. I couldn't help but laugh. I was like, she wasn't ready. She didn't even know what she was doing.
Yeah. It be going down, I'm telling you. And I grew up in a house full of females. I'm the baby out of 6, so I grew up in a house full of females. So I have seen and had my share of fights. So they weren't ready for that one.
I wasn't ready, and neither was she.
But it's definitely going to carry on in Devious Deception 2. I'm telling you, if anybody read Devious Deception 1, they're going to definitely want to cop that Devious Deception 2 because it's going down.
Now, Chameleon, when this is all said and done, what do you want people to say about you and your brand or your pen?
I just want people to know that I'm genuine with my writing. I'm genuine with my writing. I'm genuine about, making relationships with my readers. I talk to my readers all the time. Those that I can reach, that reach out to me, that I can reach out to. Those that don't, that I happen to see on other posts. I'm very genuine, and I'm genuine about my work. So I just want people to know that I love what I do, and I try to put out my best work, and I'm just going to try to grow and get better.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Lissha. I've seen the flavor of your pen, but those that are listening that may not have picked up one in your first and second book, describe your signature flow, your signature flow of your pen, because it's not like anything that I've read before.
You said describe my what?
Your signature. Every author has like a signature. You know, what is your signature that flows your? What is the signature that flows your pen?
My signature is, you know, like I said, I'm real goofy. I laugh all the time. You know, I tell jokes all the time. So I like to put a lot of humor in my books. You know, where even in Real Soldiers Don't Die, it's a whole part where they was at the car wash, you know what I'm saying, and they just racking on each other. But this is the type of life that I live. Like me, my husband, my kids, we sit up and we just dig on each other all day long, but it's what we like to do. So I feel like I always wanted to keep that in my book, whether it's a serious novel or not. I'm always gonna keep some type of humor in there. You know what I'm saying? You can read as much of, you know, as many serious chapters as you want, but you always gonna have that one part that is gonna make you remember this particular author, and that's what I want to do. I want to keep a little bit of laughter in my book, so I just try to keep that in there.
Absolutely. Now, what do you see yourself as far as your writing? Your career as an author, where do you see yourself kind of in 3 years?
In 3 years? To be honest with you, in 3 years, I just want to grow my pen. You know, I just want to enhance my pen more than you know where it is right now. I just want to have more books out. I don't want to rush it and just be throwing books out, one book after another. You know, if it takes me a while, it takes me a while. I just want to make sure it's right. I just want to make sure I can get my library up and get those books out there for my readers. I just want to get better at what I do.
That's all you want to do is just get better.
Yeah.
Now, our topic today is we're talking about Dreamcatcher. And I talked a little bit just of the story of Dreamcatcher, which is it was a net, and it's an Indian story. And they were having nightmares, basically, and then the chief or the medicine man decided to create a net that would catch the good dreams but let the bad dreams go. And so we kind of wanted to spin that just in relating to books. How is it, you know, as an author, this is your third book, so you're not really seasoned, but you're more seasoned than you were when you first came in. How do you keep those good things that you know are for you, but also know when to let those things that are not for you go?
Well, you know, like I said earlier, as far as choosing the genres, I write all the time. Even if I'm not starting a new book, I just sit down and I write in my journals all the time. I got so many of them, and it's just I try, when I think of an idea, I'll just start writing something. And maybe it can evolve into a novel, and maybe it can't. But I feel like, you know, once I tried something, and I feel like I done tried it too many times and it's not working for me, I let it go. You know what I'm saying? If I feel like, you know, I start writing on it and it gives me goosebumps, I keep it. And then I just evolve with it. I know where my limit is, so I know when to keep going and when not to keep going.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to take it just a little bit back because I did talk about how vivid you are with your writing. When you go to in the process of writing your sex scenes, how do you write those scenes? Do you have a particular thing that you have to do? Like you have some authors that have to go without sex just to write a sex scene, and you have some that don't. But what's the process when you sit down to write your sex scene?
I don't have a particular process when I write a sex scene. It's just I just feed off of my characters. All my characters don't have, you know, enticing scenes. You know, some of them just want to smash. If they just want to smash, it just depends on who my characters are. So I feed off my characters, and I feed off their attitude and their mentality at the time. And once I started, depending on who my characters is, I just run with it. I don't have any certain type of way I do it, or nah. It just I feed directly off my characters.
Now, speaking of characters, Chameleon, have you had a character that you thought was going to go one way, but that character just refused to go? They wanted to go in their own direction. They just took over. Have you had a character that do that to you?
I did. Actually, Saban. To be totally honest, the way that I originally had Saban pegged in Devious Deception 1, it didn't even go that way, because once I started writing and I did this one scene, I had to go ahead and run with her attitude. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't even end up being the way that I put her in my outline. She ended up being totally, completely different. Although you know, she turned out a beast. And, you know, that's the type of character I wanted to create. I think, you know, she turned out the best way that she could have. But, yeah, it does happen.
So she was talking. She just wanted her voice to be heard.
Yeah.
I know that's right, because she had me all over the place. I'm just saying. I was like, bro, have a bitch. And then I'm going to need you to take a sip of something while you're on that bitch.
yeah. But that be that friend. You be wanting to just pound that head, just knock them teeth straight on out her grill. Yeah. That be that friend you gonna choke down. Yeah, she one of them.
That's funny. I can see that too.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think makes a good story? Because not only are you an author, you're a reader as well. So what do you think kind of makes a good story like that?
I think it's the storyline. You know, I really just think it's the storyline. If it's not a good storyline, I just can't read it. And I can read the synopsis, and even if the synopsis is not that tasteful, I'll still, you know, go in and try to read the book. But I can't sit up and read something that's gonna have me yawning and I ain't gonna do that, you know. So I just think it just need to stay interesting. You know what I'm saying? Stay interesting. Come out with that bang. If it ain't got that bang, ain't nobody about to read that.
I know that's right. If there were 3 authors that you could write with, who would they be, Chameleon?
Wow. Definitely Nene Capri. I would have loved to write with the late Evelyn Harris. And storyteller. He's a really good author. I like reading his stuff that he puts out. He has he has a usual way of writing, and I dig it. I think that's cool.
You know, it's funny you should say storyteller. I just recently finished his newest book, and you want to talk about a cliffhanger?
Oh yeah.
I had to go back and make sure that I read what I read. I like his pen. That's another one that you got to go back and makes you think. You know, and I like those type of books.
Absolutely. Yeah. He writes for film, though. If you think about how he puts his books together, it's kind of like a movie, like a screenplay, somewhat.
Yes,
he does. He does put it together and give it that TV feel or that movie screen feel to it.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it, because that's what I got out of his book once I started reading his work, and I thought that was really interesting. He's actually the one, you know, that turned me on to Nene and Boss Lady. I actually was gonna try and look into, you know, signing with some other places or sending my information to some other places. And he was like, oh, no, you know, my girl just started, you know, Boss Lady, maybe you should hit her up, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I took his word for it and hit her up, and here I am, Boss Lady.
And look at what happened.
Y'all can't get rid of me now. I ain't going nowhere. I am not going nowhere. Y'all don't get rid of me.
We's a team. We's a strong team as well.
Yes, ma'am. I ain't going nowhere. Not at all. Y'all got me up in this nasty side.
You ain't said that so long.
I know, and Nene probably somewhere cracking up laughing.
Absolutely.
Well, before you head out the chat room, Chameleon, make sure you shout out just your work where everybody can catch you on social media and what you have coming up next.
Definitely. I have Devious Deception 2 coming out very, 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 very soon. I cannot release the date to you right now, but make sure you keep your eye posted for that because it's going to be soon. I believe it will be coming out sometime this month. I do have another solo project coming out. I don't have a release date for that either, but the information will be posted on all my pages. My Facebook page is S.Chameleon Author. I have to think about it because I had to change my name. S.Chameleon Author is my name on Facebook, and then my Twitter and my Instagram is S.Chameleon _ and the number 1. That's S.Chameleon _ and the number 1. My website is being rebuilt as we speak, so my website is down right now. But when I do get it up and running, I will make sure to post that somewhere everywhere.
Okay. Sounds good. So those are the things that we can look for coming out of S.Chameleon's camp. So make sure you keep your cyber eyes peeled. And you can always find out what she has going on in me and Lisha's page as well.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all, I'll be coming through there, stalking y'all page, putting all my pictures and stuff on there.
Oh, Lord.
Lisha inboxing me like,
come on in and sit down. Hey, I'm just saying. You were like, Felisha, I'm just saying. What other that? Everybody gotta have a Lissha on their team. You can't have a yes ma'am on your team. You gotta have that one person that's gonna tell you how it is, because a yes ma'am or a yes sir will send you outside with tissue on your shoe, and we not gonna do that. We don't do that.
That is so true. That is so true. That is so true. Yeah, you don't want no Savannah on your team.
Mhm.
No, we ain't got that.
Nah.
We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I know you just got for work and you're trying to fix your life. Thank you for coming and share your time with me and the fabulous Miss Toni on Let's Chat. And you know you was welcome back anytime.
Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all having me. And y'all have a blessed night.
Okay, you too.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Always great when Boss Lady Publishing is in the house. We're going to take a brief break, and then we're going to bring in that Mr. Mack, Mr. Peter Mack. Bring him in and talk about this filthy book, because, you know, I feel some kind of way about some of these things, you know, as a parent. I'm feeling some kind of way about some of these things I done read up in here. And some of these shenanigans these kids got going on.
I know, that Peter Mack.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a brief break, and then we are going to bring him in and talk about filthy.
Okay.
I wanna be famous for loving you. Yeah, how could you blame us? The love is true. I don't need story, movie songs, everything that I do is famous for loving you. Alright. Can I talk to him for a minute? I'm on a mission for me and you. Use all my ambition see it through. See, I'm out here hustling, Lord, 'cause I fight for a cause. It's all for loving you. Hey, hey, I wake up early, loving you. Hey, I get my hands dirty, loving you. It's all said and done. I wanna be famous, ooh, famous, ooh, just for loving you. Hey, they see the crowd and the applause and they see me on TV, think that I made it. But they didn't see the 9 to 5 on the grind, on the dream, on the maybe. But you've been down for it all, win or the draw. It don't matter if I'm ever famous, if I can't have you, yeah, you. I wanna be famous, for loving you. That's all that matters. I wanna be famous, for loving you. I can be a star tomorrow, but it wouldn't matter to be it or not. I just had you.
You are now tuned in to the mother greatest.
All right. Yeah.
We are back. You are live with the fabulous Miss Toni. I'm Miss Lissha. This is Let's Chat, and you chilling in the chat room. Today we're talk about dream catchers. We have fabulous authors on tonight. We have author S.Chameleon, Boss Lady Publishing. If you missed that interview, make sure you listen back to the archives. Right now, we're about to talk about Filthy with author Peter Mack. Hey, Peter, how are you?
Hey, Peter.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Miss Lissha. I'm Miss Toni. I'm good, thank you.
Now, as a mama, I'm in my feelings because when ain't nobody, when I ain't home, you don't let nobody in the house. You need a beating.
Peter, she's been waiting for you to get on here. Can you tell?
Yeah.
I said no.
You know
I said no. When I you don't let nobody in the house. Honey, Deb could be knocking on the door. You said my mama ain't here, and you got to come back later.
You got to assume he's sneaking them in the back door and making sure everything is straightened up just the way you left it.
No, he got a nosy mama. Ain't possible. You know somebody in the back door. I know how they step in, what they stepped over, and how they stepped out.
Well, Peter,
That's
my girl
funny.
over there, Miss Lissha, she has been laying for you, and we're gonna just preface it to say, welcome to the chat. So let's chat. And can you tell us about the story that Lissha is so passionate about? And tell us a little bit about you.
Well, Filthy, I'm returning to my biological name. I've been writing under Peter Mack for the past few years. So it was just a way to, come full circle and express my story and kind of expose myself. So it was really fun putting that out. I'd written that story a while ago and had the book cover ready a couple years ago. And it just seemed like the right time to put it out. And I'm glad that it was so well received and that you enjoyed it so much.
Now, there's a little backstory to Filthy, and what is that?
The backstory to Filthy? Well, I mean, it's just
it's your story.
Well, yeah, it's my story. It's my story. It's my story. What I was going to say was the backstory was that just how it came to be. But yeah, that's the backstory. It's my story. All those characters are real. All those situations are real. my uncle is on the back of the cover, and that's who I saw and what I saw when I moved to my grandmother's house. And, so, and then looking on that story and writing that story and reliving that story, it's really a tragedy. And it was fun putting out because, there were, I saw and I see a lot of urban fiction being written. And, I've had conversations with people, with publishers who were tired of seeing the guy on the top of the McDonald's shooting up 100 people and cooking up 100 keys of dope. And I just realized that there are a lot of people just writing stories that they are imagining, but they're not authentic. And I was criticized once for there was a fellow author or fellow publisher who said to me, who said about me that I was not a good urban fiction author. And I didn't get up in arms because, that's where I come from. So it was just refreshing to me to put out Filthy and not even classified as an urban novel because, if you're a beautiful woman, you don't have to go around saying that you're beautiful, right?
That's true.
Right.
It's there.
Right. It is what it is.
I will say when I read the book, I was a little thrown off because I couldn't catch. It wasn't the first person, but I couldn't catch that at first. I was trying to figure out who was talking.
Right.
And then I realized, like on the second time, I realized that you were talking. But it threw me off. But you talked about the death of your aunt.
Yeah, my Aunt Paula, right. She died. Yeah.
How hard was it to kind of go back? Because, when you put significant people, like especially family, in your book, how hard is it to go back and just kind of tap into how you felt during that time?
I think it's a form of respect. I got the permission of my family members. I got the permission of my Uncle Aurel, my Uncle Chris, my Uncle Kurt, and my Uncle Devin, my dad. I just got everybody's permission before I put them in, and who I didn't get permission from, I left them out. But writing about my family and writing about my life, I look at it as a form of respect. And it's not the first time I've written about my family. My first book was an autobiography called Play My Hand. And my mom got it, and she tore her part out. Before she passed it around to family members. So every time a family member got the book, her part was missing, and everybody would complain. So, I just think it is a form of respect, and I think that respect in being that everybody gets to see what part they play in your life. So you get to see, as a mother, as a father growing up, you get to see that what you do in your child's life has an impact. If they see you smoking a cigarette, if they see you drinking a beer, if they see the company you keep, there's a recorder going on. And so I think that we need to be more conscious of that. So that was one of the reasons why I wrote it, for people my age and younger to look back and see what it was like and realize the impact that they might have on their lives, and realize the change that they can make in someone else's life that they see, that they can identify, that might be going astray.
Absolutely.
That's so true, because at that age, a child is like a sponge. They're just soaking up everything that's around them, and if they're going to put it back, it may not be immediate. It may be later on in life, but they are absorbing, they're seeing, and they're going to emulate. So you're so right about that.
Yeah.
The good and the bad. You have to say the good and the bad is what as well.
Right. And, and there are no villains, because no one is at fault. We ultimately make our own decisions, but we make our own decisions based on the influences that we get. Writing Filthy was not to point fingers at anybody. It was just to say, this is what happened, and this is what happened.
Can you tell us how you came about that title? Because that's an interesting title, Filthy.
Because in that lifestyle, it's just grimy. It's dirty, it's grimy, and it's just filthy. So from coming up in that era, if you started having money, you were filthy. You know how they used to say he's filthy rich? So that was just a term from back in the day. I think it might be still popular now, even though I don't use it. But that was just kind of connote what it was, like what my mind state was, what what I was doing, where I was, being in a crack room with prostitutes and smokers, you can't get no more dirtier than that. So it just kind of emphasizes the whole lifestyle and what was going on at that time.
Now Candace, you have the character Candace in there.
Yeah, that was my.
She was fair.
Yeah.
But you talked about your first time, your first experience having, and it was more like, not like she tricked you, but you shouldn't have let her in the house in the first place, first of all. But, the way she got in was like, I got to tell you something.
Right,
and it was
right.
Sure, come and tell me. I'm like, she ain't did that. She really ain't had nothing to tell him. And now she's laying on the couch, and he's like, oh, that's what you want to tell me.
Well, yeah, we had been kissing way before then. Like, we had been kissing, it had never gotten to that stage before it got to that stage. We had did a lot of kissing before, so she was already ready to go to the next level, and that was just the opportune time. But yeah, she was. I don't know if was she nasty.
Yes, she can. And then she got you with she got you with the same thing every time. That's how she got in the house. I got to tell you something. I got to show you something. It's like, you ain't even know. But see, that's as a parent, though, that brings me into the mind of like a 13, 14-year-old boy. I have a son, and he's 13. You wasn't even, she was over your head, and you had no clue, and she didn't use it once. She used it twice and got in.
Right.
But some kind of way, Peter.
I know, right? But ain't that how you say it, though?
Kind of way.
But don't you remember that? Hasn't a boy told you, I need something to tell you. I want to tell you something. Come here, let me whisper it in your ear. Has that ever happened to you?
I was mean. I wasn't very nice. I was mean.
Really?
But I didn't talk to boys my age. I didn't talk to boys my age. I always talked to boys older than me. I was always mean to boys that were my age.
I see. Well, most girls like guys that are older than them because they tend to know a little bit more, and they know how to treat you a little bit better, so you can feel taken care of. But how did do you remember your first time?
Yes, I do. But I didn't. It wasn't like I didn't like it the first time.
You did.
Like my friend at church hooked me up with somebody she went to school with. And so we were talking, but that was like my first time. And it wasn't nothing that you explained in this book here.
Well, I don't think it was Candace's first time, but see, the thing I'm working on right. Yeah, Candace been around the block.
What they call fast.
Yeah, my first time, I'm writing a companion book to Filthy right now, and it talks about my first time. My first time, I actually got down there, it wouldn't go in, and I said, it won't fit, and I didn't know enough to push it in. I just thought it was supposed to go in on its own or something, so I said it won't fit. She got up and pulled the pants up, and that was it. So by the time Candace came around, I knew enough to push it in. Yeah, so
you have to learn from your era, right?
Exactly.
Now, how did your mama feel when she read? Did she read 50? How did she feel to know that you didn't let Candace in the house without her knowing?
My mom was cool. I remember we were moving from a house one time, and it was a girl in our apartment building, and this was the girl who it didn't fit. We were moving from an apartment, and she said, I know that girl down the way. I know she like you. Just don't have her in my bed. She said, because these girls nowadays are doing it in the bathtub. So I let her in, and right. So I let her in, and got down there or whatever, and she was ready. I think she was. Well, I don't know if it was her first time or whatever. She didn't instruct me, but I said it didn't fit. That was the time I'm talking about. I said it didn't fit. So my mom was cool when it came to girls and me, but my sister had it hard. My sister couldn't, I guess she protected her a little bit more, but my mom was kind of cool with me. She just didn't like me hanging around with thugs and bad people. She protected me from that for as long as she could. But as far as girls, if they were fast, she would identify them, and she knew wasn't really too much she could do if the girl was already fast.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now you have a new book that's coming out, Licks.
Well, Licks is available. Oh my God, Licks is the signature Peter Mack flow of interwoven storylines where I just get to flex my muscles. I keep a stripper, a drug dealer, and a gangster, and Licks and right. I think I sent you a copy. It should be there today, and I know Miss Toni has a copy. Licks is the trilogy. It includes Dirty Licks, which was previously published by Lockdown Publications, and that's the first book. And it includes Nasty Licks and Daddy Licks, which were slated to be books 2 and 3. So this is a 500-page trilogy in one book. I thought it was real cool to offer the 3-book trilogy in one book as a treat to fans, and as because there are no cliffhangers. Starla returns. She's featured, and she does her thing, and then Binky returns in Daddy. For all those people who read about Binky and the hilarious grandmother in Dirty Licks, she returns in Daddy. And what I like about Licks is that it explores themes that are trending. In Nasty, we have a transgender woman, we have some BDSM sex, and we have a murder plot trying to get Stash out of prison. So it explores themes of that are relevant at this point, and still keeping it gangster and urban. And then in Daddy, Binky returns. The theme that's common in Daddy is teenage assault by parents. I remember I did a questionnaire in one of the book groups, and come to find out that at least 70% of women have been assaulted by an adult male when they were younger. So, and they really, my question was, when was the first time you had sex? And a lot of the girls, they were like 14, 15, 16, 17. But what I didn't ask was it consensual or not? But they volunteered that information, and I thought, and I found it interesting that over 70% of them, it was not consensual. So,
wow.
Yeah. So,
that's a lot.
And it might not mean intercourse. It might, non-consensual sex could just mean groping or, touching or whatever like that. But it was a lot. And I don't know what the national average is, but I suspect that if it's not 70%, it may be close for those that report non-consensual sexual assault by older men. But yeah, so that's the theme in Daddy. Binky returns. She's in a foster home, and the foster parent is forcing himself upon her. She runs away and finds herself with 2 other women who have run away from home, who are victims of sexual assault, and they find shelter with a lesbian pimp who runs a teenage massage parlor. So with the classic flow of interwoven storylines, Binky's boyfriend ends up, well, let me not give too much away, but Licks is,
I can't wait to go check my mailbox. I do want to say we appreciate you, because you always give me an advance copy of your books and, tea, and I appreciate that. That I'm actually getting that copy. I can't wait to go to the mailbox and see what you're talk about in there.
I mean, look what you're doing. I mean, you don't charge for this service. You allow me to be on your show free of charge, and I've paid in the past, $25, $35. Some people charge $75, which I didn't pay. But you're taking your time out, you're sacrificing your time and your energy to create a platform for independent authors to showcase their talent, and that's priceless. So the least I can do is pay the price and the postage to get you a copy of the book.
And just to also piggyback that, I do want to thank you for the mention of me and Lissha in your Filthy. That was a surprise treat. So thank you so much, Peter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's the least I can do to show my appreciation. And, I've been here before, and you guys was just super cool. You weren't ratchet. I've just some ratchet hosts that invited me to that show, but I refuse to be beat up on. We don't have to cuss and be rude to each other to get a point across. I think that professionalism is the key, right?
Absolutely. And you know, you're the first author that Lissha and I will be doing a new segment. We're reviewing a book, so you are the pioneer, right, Lissha, of Lissha and Toni's book review.
Well, imagine that first, huh?
Yeah, this is like something new that we're starting. Like we're getting a second day next year, so we're going to be on 2 days. We want to keep the show free, but of course it doesn't pay for themselves. So we're looking for like sponsorships and things of that nature, because it's hard to be an author. You know, that book money is that slow money, and for them to be able to have that free platform just available to them. But if we have to charge in 2016, I don't think it'll be more than $10, just so that people can be able to get themselves out there more. But we do appreciate you.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's nothing. You know, if you're in it for yourself, if you're putting out your own book, I mean, when I put out my own book, I don't mind betting on myself, because you have to believe in yourself. So if you believe in yourself, you don't mind putting your money on yourself. Now, when I was with a publisher, I would expect that the publisher would do that, right? Because I'm only getting 40%, right? So, but the interesting thing about this is the interesting thing with Filthy. I may have sold, when I was in the contract with Dirty Licks, I may have sold more books, but I got less money. With Filthy, I may have sold less books, but I got more money. But it's not about the money. You know, I would write just as enthusiastically for 2 people as I would with 1,000 people, right? But, you know, writing for yourself as an independent author, you know, you would think that the author would have no qualms about betting on his or herself. So it's an investment. That's the way I look at it.
I think across the board it's an investment, because if you look at the big 6, they don't do half the things people imagine that they do. You know, they don't do all of that. You know, it has the author has to do it. So when you have a mid-size or a small publishing house, you have some that do it, but for the most part they don't. That promotions and your interviews and stuff, that's really up to the author, because, you know, the publisher is there just to get your book out into the different available places. It's, you know, the author's job to make sure you got people to go get that book. So platforms like internet radio and blogs and discussions in the groups, those are ways to help the author be able to, I think, build their brand and get people out there, because there are 2 things that help sell your book. You know, that word of mouth and that personality. And when you have those 2 and you're able to interact, it does help. It does help the author, and it helps sell books. Now, you've done both. You've been signed and you've self-published. What would be the one word of advice that you would give someone trying to do either, whether they wanted to self-publish or they wanted to be signed? What would be one type of advice that you would give them?
With you know, the benefit to being signed with a publisher is that you may get better exposure, but you lose control of your product. And as a self-publisher, you have control of your product. So if you're going to self-publish, be prepared to stumble, be prepared to, be prepared to invest in yourself with the money and be a listener and a loaner. I would advise people to learn the game first. My first 2 books that came out, Hootsuite and Enably Affair, were both signed contracts. The first one I got cheated on. The second one was a great opportunity. I'm still friends with Karen Mitchell, who is now at Urban Books with Carl Weber. We are still in contact. So it just depends on who your publisher is. If you can have a great relationship, investigate your publisher before you sign with them. Contact the authors on the roster to see what the relationship is like, because sometimes people get into contracts and then they regret it afterwards. So to talk with some of the authors who are on a current label that you're looking to join, kind of get their feedback on what it is that you're doing. And if you're going to self-publish, talk to some self-published authors, hit them up, and find out what were the pitfalls that they had to go through, so maybe that you can avoid them. So investigation and learning is the key.
Wow, that's interesting that you say. I think you're the first one that I've heard say contact some of the authors that are in the publishing, that are on the publishing company that you're interested in, because that's, that, come to think of it, that would be the first thing. But but it's not always the most visible thing that you should be doing. You know what I mean?
Of course not. I mean, people don't say these type of things, right?
Right, exactly. So I
but when
love
you go
that point.
but when you go to get a job and you're looking for a company to work for, to prepare for the interview, you're going to want to know in what countries they serve, how many, what their bottom line is, what how much they make. You're going to want to know information about the company to give to the interviewer, correct? So for yourself.
Exactly.
So for yourself, you're going to be your own boss in essence. So you want to kind of find out what the work environment is like. I mean, if you're going for a company, you might not be able to contact some of the people that work inside the company and say, how is it working here? I don't know how you can do that. But most definitely, if a friend refers you to a company, you're going to say, is it cool? What's your boss like? You know what I mean? You're going to ask those questions. So I think the literary world is a little bit more down-dressed. I think you can contact some people and be like, and just tell them like, hey, my name is, and I was, thinking about, joining the group. How do you like it? And I don't know. I don't know how easy it would be for somebody to say, nah, it's not cool. But I'm sure you can find some people who might be able to help you, or I don't know. You tend to find these things out a little bit late.
If you want it, you'll find a way, right?
That's what I was going to say.
I like how you said that, though, because a lot of times, and that really goes to what I say all the time. In everything you do, you have to have an understanding. You have to have an understanding of anything that you're going to do that pertains to your brand and your vision and your career, because literally you're protecting your brand at all costs. So you have to know what you're attaching to your brand and what you're not attaching to your brand. I think having a lot of authors don't have that understanding on what exactly a publisher does. I mean, you have to have an understanding on the publisher, the printer, the promoter, the formatter, the editor. What kind of editors do they have? Because there's all different kinds of editors. You have to know your team when you go into a publishing house, and some people don't do that. So I like how you said, just maybe go talk to some people, ask them, see, just get a feel of what it is. You've got to have an understanding in anything that you do. Because if you don't have an understanding and it don't go right, it's nobody's fault but your own. Most people will blame other people, but it ain't their fault. It's your fault because you didn't do your due diligence.
Right.
I'm down my soapbox now.
You obviously, this is something that I'm passionate about.
Because it's what I do. I love being a promoter. I love to help. That's why I do what I do. But I do find that people don't have an understanding. You should have an understanding on how royalties work. You should have an understanding on what the publisher is to do. Because if the publisher is there to put your book in 5 stores and you don't have 2 people to go get those books, that's a problem. Because what's going to happen is when those stores send those books back, the publisher is not eating that. You eating that.
Exactly,
you know But you didn't have an understanding on how things work. You got to have an understanding. Your promoter, all they are really is a taxi cab. We there to pick people up and take them to party offers. Now, if they get to the party and it's whack and they don't stay, that's nobody's fault.
I did it. I went to a club one time and I asked the bouncer, I said, can I go in first? He said, no, you can't go in. It's $10. And it was a Jamaican club. I paid my $10 and I went up in there. It was like 5 people in the club. I was super high.
You want to show money back.
That's some shenanigans.
I can't even get that's some shenanigans. I paid $10 and I can't even get some wings just right. Then you got attitude.
Exactly.
See, that's what I'm saying. Know your team.
That's so true. That's so true. Now, Peter, you touched on some really powerful things. This is Toni, because a lot of people say Lissha and I sound alike, so I try to remember that.
So that was Lissha. So that was Lissha who was so passionate about.
We got it right.
All right.
Yes, I'm the promoter and Toni is the editor.
Of course. When you said, I knew it. I knew you when you said promoter. I knew that was you.
Because you said some really, really powerful things tonight. And just to back up, most people think that you sign a contract, you get the book out, and you think you're a success. Now, how much really goes involved in being a successful author? Because the work is only just beginning.
Mhm.
What does it take to be a successful author after all of that?
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad that you asked it because people ask me that all the time. The first thing they want to know is how much money have you made, and when I try to blow them off, like I don't know. My first contract, I got my first contract they gave me 100 books free. My second contract, I got $4,000 advance, and so. So what they want to hear are the numbers. So they say, well, how long you been writing? Well, for 10 years. Well, how much money you think you made since then? I said, man, look, man, if you're writing for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reason. So the success comes. It depends on how you define success. If you're writing for notoriety and fame and to have people call your name, you're not going to have much success. I don't believe, because it wasn't until I believe that recognition-wise and being satisfied-wise, I think that Filthy was my most successful effort because, and I've given it some thought and wondered why just today in anticipation of coming on the show. I think Filthy was because I was really, really, it's a personal novel, one, and returning to my government name, I realized that I am becoming more true to myself and who I am and what I represent, and the knowledge of what is to be done after the book is published. So, and just taking lessons from people in the industry, engaging, keeping an ear to the ground and being professional in your approach. And like you say, representing love and respect for creative fiction. And I think that's our duty as writers to not, because if you disrespect it, it'll show up in your longevity and it'll show up in your product. So for me, success is being respected by my peers, and for people to enjoy what I write and for them to be able to identify and to go back and have something to say about their own lives and how maybe the book touched their lives. So, if you can touch on these themes, everything else is a perk and a bonus. You don't have to have your hand out for the nickel and the quarter, because that comes when you go to church and there's a good sermon, he don't have to ask you for the change that fold and don't jingle, because you enjoyed it so much you writing a check, right? So so if you're in it and you do good work, everything else comes along with it, and if it doesn't bother you because that's not what you're in it for. So to answer your question, to be a good author is to be after the book is out, to be successful is just really to stay true to your craft, keep learning your craft, and just respect this industry.
That's so true. And Peter, one of the perks of having the various shows that we have, it allows us to meet different authors that we may not, normally meet and get to know their work. So I read, since my first interaction with you, I've read Dirty Licks. I wasn't familiar with your pen, but I go into a book. I don't go into a book with expectations. I try to go in with a clear palette, so I can first of all get the author's flavor of that pen. Each author I approach differently, and approaching your Dirty Licks, I hadn't read a book like that, so I try not to prejudge. It took some getting into, but once I got into the book, I really enjoyed it. I loved how you flashed back at certain points that were relevant to the current points, if that makes sense to what I'm saying.
Thank you.
So I love your pen, but I can see the difference between Dirty Licks and Filthy. So you do have that very pen, which can be so important in this industry sometimes. How do you maintain that and keep it relelevant? And I'm sorry to be so long-winded with that question.
No,
but I just
that's
wanted
good.
to make that point.
I'm glad that you noticed that because, with Dirty Licks and with Licks is the same flow. it's just like when someone said that I couldn't write urban fiction. Well, I know that already. Like, I've lived that, and with so much, and until I can come with something that's original and authentic, my first book, A Neighborly Affair, under Peter Mack, it had no drugs, no guns in it. It was really just about erotic romance, because that was a challenge for me. So Filthy was written years ago. And, and it was a personal novel just for me to exercise my demons and to find out where my life turned and where the change was made at. So that was written in the first person, and it was natural, and it was an easy flow. But as I started writing, since then, I've written over 20 books, but I've only published 7. So, so I'm still shopping them. I'm still, I've been around since Terry Woods, and, I've been offered contracts from Wahida, Vicky Stringer. Terry Woods offered to buy a few books. Vicky Stringer offered to publish me. Wahida offered to publish me. But once they found out I was in prison after being burned so many times, of course, they took it off the table. But, I've been around. So when writing Dirty Licks, I wanted to I believe that creative fiction is an art form. It's a medium that should be used, and is best used in the best literary tradition of Fyodor Dostoevsky, James Joyce, James Baldwin, Matt Johnson, Eric Lavelle, Terry McMillan, to exercise Toni Morrison. I read a book by Toni Morrison. It did not have a punctuation, no periods, no exclamations, no commas. Right? So, it's a medium that is an art form, and, writing Dirty Licks, it was my way to just be different. Like, can I do this? Let me write in a way that, the first, maybe you noticed it. Instead of saying he says, she said, I said he says, he says. It's more, the context is more immediate. It's not past tense. If you can understand that. So, and either I appreciate that you approached it with a clear palette, because it allowed you to appreciate it once you got into it. It's just like riding a motorcycle. It's just like riding a motorcycle. Once you get the gears right, then you're a pro. But yeah, I believe that, I believe that creative fiction is meant to, explore, educate, and entertain, and to challenge yourself. It's an inward introspection and an outward expression of what you can do.
And I did notice those things that you were about to say, because, as an editor, you have that editor's eye, and sometimes you can be critical because you're not reading it from a reader's point. You kind of like flip-flop between that editor's eye and that reader's eye. So I know exactly where you were going with that before, as far as he says, she says, he said. So.
Right. It just, right, with that kind of flow, it just brings everything immediately to where you're standing right in front of the action. And it works if the author, and that was a challenge, you have to remain consistent and stay in that immediate tense. And when you do go into the past tense, you have to make the transition very smooth. And I think that right. Is right. And I think I'm sorry to break, but I think that is what kept the story flowing, because of that flow between the past and the present. You know what I mean? And I think that's what kept it seamless, almost the same. Right. And that's what it's all about, as a writer, that's what makes it fun. I was writing today, working on the Filthy companion novel, and it occurred to me that, and I write to music. I have music in my head, so I was listening to Rick Ross and A$AP Rocky today. So I just, in writing and in hip-hop, I was kind of going with the flow. So I noticed that in your passages, what you want to do is break them up. And it's not just the words you say, but if you say something that there should be a pause, like an emotional pause, then that's when you break it and go to the next paragraph. So I noticed myself doing that. So, with every book, there's something new that you learn about writing. And that's what I learned today, that I may have been doing naturally anyway, but because I'm more conscious about it, I'll install it, with a little bit more thought. So to take those pauses, emotional pauses and mental pauses between the paragraphs and between the dialogue, to institute those into the narrative to make it an even smoother read.
Well, Peter, we have so enjoyed you, as always, here on Let's Chat, and it seemed like the time has just flown by. But before you leave the chat room, can you just let our listening audience know how to reach you on your social media sites and what you have coming down the pipe?
Well, we're building the landing page as we speak. It'll be petermackpresents.com, but you can reach me at Filthy Confess on Twitter.